Chapter 1260. I swear. The place was filled with yin-death aura, just like how Arid Triad was filled with bright yang aura. The people born in this world couldn't notice it, since it was difficult for them to tell that there were also 4 great true worlds in this world filled with yin-death aura. Their names were different. Morning Tao was known as Immortal Sect. Sacred Yin was known as Illusory Yang. The Emperor of Abyss was known as Sky Hill. As for the 4th true world, it was known as Victory Colony. In true Victory Colony world was a palace in space. Right then, there was a figure sitting in there while meditating. That figure belonged to a young man. His age could not be told from his face, but those who saw him could vaguely sense that the dust of time had filled the area around him. He had his eyes closed while his expression was aloof. If Su Ming was there, he would definitely be able to tell with just one glance that this person was his other self in this universe. Their appearances was the exact same. The man's originally calm expressions was suddenly shaken. His eyes flew swiftly open, and all those who saw him could clearly see the shadow of a butterfly in his pupils. His body trembled, and his aura swiftly increased, as if a force had rushed into his body, causing his state of being and will to instantly increase in power exponentially. The entire process lasted for about 2 hours before it slowly calmed down. The young man's eyes were filled with red at that moment. To him, it felt like the world had turned over its head in that time. His power had increased by a lot, and a dazed look appeared on his face. The sudden increase of his power caused him to be extremely puzzled. What happened? The young man frowned and mumbled softly to himself. 2 hours ago, his level of cultivation had only been at the equivalent of life realm, but right then, he had instantly become an existence with the power equivalent to those in death realm. This explosive increase in his power should originally cause him to feel discomfort. After all, it was an external power, but it was definitely not the case. It was as if this power had always belonged to him. When the young man fell into contemplative silence, a glint appeared in his eyes, and he lifted his head. He looked beyond his palace, and in just the span of a few breaths, a figure came inside. It instantly appeared before the young man and turned into an old man. The old man was dressed in a black robe, and there was a butterfly embroidered on his robe. As he approached the palace, he immediately knelt down. The old man had extraordinary power, and he was also in death realm, but his act of kneeling to the young man was not at all lacking in fluency or filled with dissatisfaction. Instead, it was incredibly sincere. It was as if he was worshipping his progenitor. Greetings, child of Morus Alba. Your Grace, a drastic change has occurred in true Immortal Sect world. The entire true world was reduced to a wreck in just 2 hours. Most of the planets had crumbled, and there is also a whirlwind surrounding it. In fact, a huge gap has appeared above. The old man explained quickly with an anxious look on his face. I understand. The young man looked as composed as ever. The old man looked as if he had something else to say, but he did not voice what was on his mind. Instead, he got up and was just about to announce his leave when the young man suddenly asked, Did the other 2 children of Morus Alba do anything? Not for the moment, the old man answered respectfully. When he saw the young man sinking into contemplative silence and making no move to give further instruction, he left the hall. It's also within 2 hours, and it's in true Immortal Sect world. There is something strange about this. The young man remained silent for a moment before a cold sneer appeared at the corners of his lips. As one of the 3 great incarnations of Harmonious Morus Alba's will, he possessed the ability to communicate with Harmonious Morus Alba's will since he was young, and it was precisely because of this that he became one of the 3 children of Morus Alba. He was the representative of Harmonious Morus Alba's will in this expanse cosmos. He had a high status, and with just one sentence, he could determine the deaths of 10,000 people. With just one sentence, he could make the universe go mad. This was his right, because as the incarnation of Harmonious Morus Alba, he was believed to be the manifestation of Harmonious Morus Alba's will in the expanse cosmos. Could it be that my disaster has arrived? In silence, the young man closed his eyes. He lifted his right hand and pressed it at the center of his brow. With it, his body shuddered, and the image of a butterfly gradually appeared behind him. It surrounded the young man and turned into a whirlwind. The butterfly flapped its wings before it completely merged with the whirlwind. It concealed the young man's figure within it, which was him using his right as the child of Morris Alba to initiate a simple communication with harmonious Morris Alba's will, or rather, he was borrowing harmonious Morris Alba's power, the strongest power he had as the incarnation of harmonious Morris Alba. This was an ability only he and the other two children of Morris Alba shared, and it was precisely it that allowed him to be able to instantly kill someone in Death Realm even though he was previously only in Life Realm. During the sudden change in true immortal sect world in harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos, the entire true world was reduced to ruins. Countless planets were shattered, causing the cultivators in the place to find their hearts tremble under this disaster. Thankfully, true immortal sect world had always maintained a certain degree of mysteriousness. It had some limitations set on it, such as the number of cultivators being restricted in the true world and the area around Bright Young Vortex being declared a forbidden ground. Because of this, the damage caused by the disaster that swept through all of true immortal sect world mostly affected the true world itself. The cultivators were not too influenced by it. At the edge of true immortal sect world was a cultivation planet that had been split into half. There was once a tall mountain reaching 100,000 feet there. Right then, it had been reduced to a gorge. Beside it was a middle-aged cultivator who looked around the area with a bitter smile. There were 7 people surrounding him at that moment. They had aloof expressions of their faces as they glared at the person. Fellow Taoists, why trouble yourselves to chase after me? I, Qian, truly did not steal your sect's jade wire. I really didn't steal it. I already swore I didn't steal it just now. The middle-aged man stared at the 7 men and while explaining himself with a bitter smile. The 7 people's expressions instantly changed drastically. They took a simultaneous step forward and surrounded the middle-aged man. One of them immediately said in exasperation, "Shut up. If it was not because of eldest senior brother's orders, we would have long ago captured you and brought you back to the sect. We already gave you a chance, and you still dare to talk about the oath you swore just now." They did not dare let this middle-aged man continue speaking, because they would never forget just how terrifying the scene just then had been. The group of 7 in pursuit of this middle-aged man had finally been able to catch up to him in true immortal sect world. Since this person was a close friend of their eldest senior brother, they had not made things difficult for him. They only wanted to make him explain things clearly. As for whether they were supposed to bring him back to the sect, they were to do so judging on the situation. After all, there were 60 people whom they were supposed to investigate this time, and the person before them was just one of them. Things had gone very smoothly at the start. Once this person provided his explanation, he looked as if he was afraid that they would not believe in him, and hence, he swore an oath saying that if his words were lies, the sky and earth would crumble. The 7 of them would naturally not believe in oaths. After all, they had heard rumors about the middle-aged man's character. It was said that he swore the same oath every single day to different people. However, what they did not expect was that the moment the middle-aged man finished speaking, the sky and earth immediately crumbled. But that was not all. The middle-aged man had reacted to the situation very quickly and immediately swore another oath, saying that if his words were lies, the planet would immediately shatter. And right when he said those words, the planet rumbled and shattered. Then, in a panic, the middle-aged man swore another oath, saying that space would shatter, and then a whirlwind howled in space, as if it truly wanted to crush the universe. It looked like all of true immortal sect world was faced with an apocalypse. Not only were the 7 people stunned by the scene, even the middle-aged man looked like he had seen a ghost. Then, as the world went through the drastic change, he fled. But the 7 caught up to him again. When the middle-aged man heard the exasperated shouts, a distressed expression immediately appeared on his face, and he felt incredibly depressed. He had sworn plenty of oaths in his life, but not once had they come true. What happened just then had terrified him. He had not thought that with just one sentence, he could make the sky and earth crumble. And judging by the looks of it, the sky and earth in all of true immortal sect world had crumbled, the space shattered. All of it pushed him into the misconception that the universe was punishing him. But isn't the price for the punishment too great? I am just a nobody. I just like to swear oaths. There's no need to use the destruction of an entire true world to warn me, right? The middle-aged man was feeling incredibly anxious. At that moment, When he saw the 7 people surround him and take a step forward with hostile expressions, he instinctively spoke, "I swear." "Shut up. How dare you still try to swear? Do you want us to capture you, or will you follow us obediently?" When the 7 saw that he was about to speak, their expressions changed drastically. One of them immediately formed a seal and looked like they wanted to cast a divine ability. When he saw that the 7 were about to attack, the middle-aged man roared, "I swear. Damn it, I swear that if I stole your jade wire, then the child of Morris Alba will come to personally punish me." His roar was filled with the tone of someone who had been wronged. This was the first time he swore this oath. After all, swearing by the name of the child of Morris Alba in harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos was an incredibly serious matter. It was the same as swearing by the name of Arid Triads will in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. Regardless of whether it would come true, the oath itself required a form of determination. When the 7 heard this, their footsteps came to a halt. They were truly afraid now. The person before them gave them a feeling that he was a little too strange. Every single oath he swore had come true. At that moment, when the 7 heard the man's words, one of them instinctively lifted his head to stare at the heavens. Almost the same moment, he shuddered and sucked in a sharp breath. In that inhale was the shock he felt. As the other people raised their heads as well and the middle-aged man did the same thing, they saw a long arc charging toward them from the sky. It instantly drew close, and within was Su Ming. The instant the 7 saw his face, they sucked in a sharp breath. "We, disciples of Freezing Winter Sect, greet the child of Morris Alba." The 7 knelt down simultaneously, and the middle-aged man's face turned pale as he nearly fell down on his bottom. He suddenly felt that his retribution had arrived. Chapter 1261, Chen Chen, child of Morris Alba. Su Ming's eyes shone with a barely noticeable glint. With his intelligence, if he did not want anyone to see anything off about him, no one would be able to find even a single clue, unless he ran into old monsters like the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe. In fact, even the old monsters like the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe would not be able to see everything. After all, the level of complications and number of trials Su Ming had experienced in the 1,000 years he had lived was definitely not something other cultivators could imagine. The people before him were part of the cultivators he had seen in this true world with his divine sense, but he had come for the middle-aged man named Qian. But he was not entirely certain, because everything in Arid Triad existed here as well. He was not certain whether this man named Qian was his old friend. When he heard the title these cultivators used to refer to him and saw the anxiety contained under their respectful demeanor, Su Ming reached his other goal. He had wanted to appear before these people to see whether they would see him as the other version of himself in this world. Freezing Winter Sect. Su Ming's expression remained the same. When he said those words faintly, he sounded as if he did not quite remember this sect. "Our sect is not great. Your Grace, there is no need for you to pay too much attention to it. Our sect is one of the 4 sects under the jurisdiction of Li Qian Wang, one of the 3 immortals of Jade Palace. The sect masters of our sect have always inherited the divine position of Li Hai, who is one of Li Qian Wang's 4 generals," one of the 7 cultivators immediately explained while worshipping him respectfully. "I have some uses for this person. You may leave now." Su Ming did not ask anything in detail, and instead chose to speak calmly. The 7 men hesitated for a moment before they cast each other a glance. Then, they bowed to Su Ming again and turned around to turn into 7 long arcs that charged into the universe. Soon, they could no longer be seen. The middle-aged man's feet trembled. He wanted to slap his own mouth, cursing in his heart that he absolutely should not have sworn in the name of the child of Morris Alba. But even so, he still thought that there was something too bizarre about all his oaths coming true. It was so bizarre that it made him stare at Su Ming dumbly, and his heart trembled even more. Your Grace, why did you come to this lowly commoner?" The middle-aged man felt slightly tongue-tied, and he instinctively put on an obsequious expression. Su Ming turned his head and directed his gaze on the middle-aged man. After a long while, he suddenly said, "Chen Chen. Here." The man was Chen Chen, the person who had accompanied him for some time after getting acquainted with him in the land of Berserkers until Su Ming was forced to head to the barren lands of Divine Essence, the Chen Chen who he had lost contact with ever since. Su Ming had asked his second senior brother about Xianxia later. This person had left on his own not long after Su Ming went to the barren lands of divine essence. Even now, Su Ming still remembered the grief and anger on Xianxia's face when he witnessed the deaths of all those from the ninth summit when the direct descendant of Morning Dao sect descended among them. The determination to become someone powerful had flickered within him at that time. With those memories, Su Ming stared at the man before him and found himself slightly unable to tell whether he was Arid Triad's Xianxia or the Xianxia of this expanse cosmos. Su Ming was silent for a moment before he suddenly asked, "Do you still recognize me?" When he said those words, Xianxia suddenly trembled. From the moment Su Ming appeared, not many changes on his expression could be detected. At most, he had shown that he was frustrated by his own oaths, but in truth, at the moment Xianxia saw Su Ming, an anguish that other people would find hard to detect appeared in his heart. This anguish came from Su Ming's current appearance. It came from the memories of a certain past, but he did not believe that Su Ming was the one he knew. Instead, he stood there in a daze and stared at Su Ming blankly. Su Ming's appearance was slightly different from when he was in the land of berserkers. However, once one stared at him for a long period of time, they would still be able to find some traces of the Su Ming of the past. Su Ming stared at Xianxia, and after a long while, he sighed softly. "Do you still remember the ninth summit?" When he asked this question, Xianxia jolted. Disbelief appeared on his face. There was no way he would forget the ninth summit. It was a place he would never forget. He had unintentionally left his expanse cosmos in the past and entered Bright Yang Vortex to come to the Berserker's world, and when he was there, he had gotten acquainted with a few people. Everything that had happened in the ninth summit and the tragedy that fell upon it in the end were engraved deep into his mind. At that time, he did not know about the secrets regarding harmonious Morus Alba expanse cosmos, but when Su Ming left for Divine Essence Star Ocean, Xianxia had chosen to leave as well. Once he returned to his own world, he began to wonder about harmonious Morus Alba expanse cosmos, and by chance, he was able to witness a grand event in harmonious Morus Alba expanse cosmos from the distance. That grand event was the appearance of the third child of Morus Alba in True Victory Colony World. He would never forget how excited he had been when he saw him. He would also never forget the indifference he met when he tried to approach the third child of Morus Alba and how lost he had felt. Similarly, he would not forget the dreariness he felt when he understood what happened, and how he had distanced himself as far as possible from the third child of Morus Alba. "Your Grace, I do not understand what you said." Xianxia remained silent for a moment before he forced that obsequious expression belonging to a nobody on his face and spoke with a smile while his heart was filled with anguish. He did not dare to be certain of his own answers, because as time passed, he slowly came to realize a secret regarding harmonious Morus Alba expanse cosmos. The people who existed here existed in the outside world as well. But they were not the same people. The Su Ming he saw before him was clearly the exact same as the child of Morus Alba. It was difficult for Xianxia to tell whether this person was Su Ming or the child of Morus Alba. Su Ming fell silent. He had recognized Xianxia. Based on his reactions, Su Ming had been able to see many things, but he did not force Xianxia to get reacquainted with him. Instead, in silence, he cast Xianxia a deep glance. "I didn't expect for you to have come from this place. Take care of yourself." Xianxia was Su Ming's friend. Their relationship might not run as deep as the relationship Su Ming shared with his senior brothers, but this person was not his enemy. He was a friend. As Su Ming shook his head, he turned around and walked into space. Since Xianxia was hesitant and had difficulties that made him refuse to get reacquainted, then Su Ming would not force him to do so, no matter what that difficulty was. There were times when friendship was formed due to a chance meeting, but when the two people ran into each other again, perhaps they would become strangers again. When he watched Su Ming's figure slowly rise into space, great conflict appeared on Xianxia's face. Then, he loudly shouted one question. "Who is the person I fear the most beside you?" "You Xian." Su Ming came to a halt in midair, then turned his head around to stare at Xianxia. "Why did you say that?" Once Xianxia asked this question, he stopped speaking. Tears fell from the corners of his eyes. "As the Mutt, the Abyss Dragon bullied you, and Yu Xian bullied the Abyss Dragon. That was why you believed that Yu Xian was the strongest and most terrifying in the past. Su Ming looked at Chen Chen, and a nostalgic expression appeared on his face. That period of time was filled with beautiful moments. I am not the child of Morris Alba. I am Su Ming, the one from the land of berserkers. At the instant Su Ming said those words, more tears fell from Chen Chen's eyes. He stared at Su Ming in a daze, and excitement gradually appeared on his face. Su Ming. It's you. It's really you. You're not the child of Morris Alba. You're Su Ming. Oi. On a cultivation planet that had been struck into two halves was a sky that was no longer blue. Instead, it was dark. Those on the planet could see the wind howling and charging at the ends of the sky. The ground had shattered, the mountains had crumbled, and the empty land was filled with numerous cracks. Within an empty spot between some of the cracks was a table. On it were 2 pots of wine. Su Ming sat beside the table, and by his side was Chen Chen. Su Ming listened to Chen Chen recounting his tale. He had entered Bright Yang Vortex completely by accident and went into the land of berserkers. Then, due to Su Ming leaving to the barren lands of divine essence, he chose to leave and return to harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos. When he was here, he met many people, and some of them were the other Su Ming as well as the other Yu Xian. This is harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos. There is a legend in the land of berserkers about a butterfly named Harmonious Morris Alba. That legend is real. Harmonious Morris Alba is a supreme existence in our expanse cosmos. There are 4 true worlds here. There is a title of the child of Morris Alba here as well. They are like the children of Harmonious Morris Alba and at the same time its incarnations. In truth, due to some special reasons, they are capable of communicating with Harmonious Morris Alba's will. They can borrow the power of Harmonious Morris Alba. Chen Chen stopped speaking and cast a glance at Su Ming before he said hesitantly, I also saw. By Su. She isn't a cultivator. She's a mortal I saw many years ago on a cultivation planet in True Sky Hill World. She's from a huge mortal family in that planet. I didn't see second senior brother or Hu Zi, but I remember Yu Xian clearly. She's currently in True Victory Colony World, and she's... Chen Chen stopped speaking again. He hesitated for a moment before he continued speaking. She's the lover of the 3rd child of Morris Alba. Su Ming was silent. He had guessed a long time ago that the other versions of the people in Arid Triad would exist in Harmonious Morris Alba, but the land of berserkers was in the vortex, and the people there might not have alternative versions of themselves in Harmonious Morris Alba. Only those with certain characteristics would have other versions of themselves here. It was so for Su Ming, and it was the same for Bai Su. It was easy to explain Bai Su's presence. She was a cultivator of Arid Triad to begin with. As for Su Ming, his presence was also very easy to explain. He was not a life from Yin Death Vortex to begin with. This is Harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos. There are 4 great true worlds here, and they are Immortal Sect, Illusory Yang, Sky Hill, and Victory Colony. There are quite a number of cultivators in Harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos, and they are all scattered throughout the 4 great true worlds. Besides True Immortal Sect World being isolated many years ago and all forms of power being forbidden to form their influence in this place, there is 1 child of Morris Alba defending each of the 3 other true worlds. There are also various powerful sects such as Sky Hill's Jade Palace in the 3 true worlds. There is the Jade Sovereign, Li Qian Wang, the god of 2 tunnels, and Feng Hua. The Jade Sovereign is the leader among them, and the other 3 have their own sects. They are all uniformly known as Jade Palace. Then there is True Illusory Yang World. There are the saints of 4 continents. Saint Do is the leader, and the secondary saints Yun, Dao, and Shu have their own forces of power. There is also True Victory Colony World. Under the child of Morris Alba are the 10 great mournful death souls. They control the supreme treasure, 18 Spirit Hell, and they are incredibly powerful. Chapter 1262. Are there any more? 3 children of Morris Alba, and one of them is the other version of me in this expanse cosmos. This also explains why I can move through the vortex, but the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe cannot. The other me can communicate with harmonious Morus Alba's will. He is the supreme child of Morus Alba, only second to harmonious Morus Alba. Su Ming let his eyes fall shut to hide his thoughts. A brilliant light shone beneath his eyelids, and then he thought of another question. Who are the other two? Children of Morus Alba? If the other me can communicate with harmonious Morus Alba, then can I do it as well? And Di Tian is hidden in Yin Death Vortex. Does he have some form of connection with harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos as well? There's Su Xianxia as well. This person is a man of great talent and ambition. My level of cultivation might surpass his, but I still can't guess the details of his plan. I feel as if I'm missing some very important clues. By the looks of it, does he also know about harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos existence? When Su Ming thought of this, a myriad of thoughts spun in his head. In silence, he did not bother himself with the forces of power in the three great true worlds here. The thing he paid attention to the most was that the three children of Morus Alba who could use the divine abilities of harmonious Morus Alba's will. If I can take you to. While Su Ming was mulling over his thoughts, Chen Chen seemed to have said something. Su Ming stopped thinking and lifted his head to look at him. I was saying that if you want to see Bai Su, I can bring you to the planet where she lived. But 1,000-something years have already passed. As a mortal, she should have already passed away a long time ago. Chen Chen did not know what Su Ming had gone through. His memories still stayed in the past, which was why he said those words. Su Ming was silent for a moment, as if he remembered something. Once he touched his storage bag, he nodded. Chen Chen had a slightly complicated look on his face. Clearly, he had misunderstood Su Ming's feelings for Bai Su. He sighed. After a moment, the two of them turned into two long arcs that charged out of the planet and left into the distance. True Sky Hill World was filled with brilliant nebula. From the distance, they looked incredibly beautiful, and they dazzled the minds of all who saw them. Two long arcs shot through the sky, and Su Ming continued getting closer to them with Chen Chen as they moved forward. With Chen Chen's level of cultivation, it would take him an incredibly long time before to step into Sky Hill, but with Su Ming sweeping him up with his power, they traveled at a speed that surpassed shifting. In just 2 hours, Su Ming and Chen Chen left True Immortal Sect World and stepped into Sky Hill's galaxy. It was boundless and quiet. Not many cultivators could be seen, and even if there were some in the area, they would not be able to notice Su Ming. Under Chen Chen's instructions, when the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn passed, a blue cultivation planet appeared before Su Ming. That cultivation planet was incredibly beautiful. It was blue because most of the planet was occupied by an ocean. There were 2 continents on it. Based on Chen Chen's instructions, Su Ming moved, and the universe in his view changed. He landed on the top of a mountain located on the continent to the right of the planet. A mountain breeze howled, and it brought with it a chilling presence. The place was covered in a white layer of snow, and when Su Ming cast his gaze over, he saw snow falling down from the sky. It looked like there was no end to it. Chen Chen thought for a moment before he lifted his finger and pointed into the distance. It's this continent. I remember seeing her in the city of the mortal country in that direction. When Su Ming looked over, his expression was as calm as ever. After a long while, he shook his head. It's been 1,000 years. Countries will always change. There's no. Su Ming closed his eyes and spread his divine sense outwards. After a long while, when he opened his eyes, a complicated look appeared on his face. He turned around and brought Chen Chen with him to disappear from the snow on the mountain. When he reappeared, he was standing outside a village next to a mountain. The village seemed to be secluded from the world. There was smoke rising into the morning sky. Occasionally, the sounds of dogs barking could be heard, and they were mixed with the sounds of children playing. The village was not big. There were only about 60 families in it. In the snowy morning, several children were building snowmen while laughing. Su Ming watched all of this quietly before calmly walking over. Mortals could not see him move past them. When he walked to the house belonging to one of the families in the village, Su Ming stopped. There were quite a number of women moving in and out of the house at that moment, and they were delivering hot water non-stop into one of the rooms. Occasionally, The sound of a woman exerting all her strength would travel out of the room. A man standing outside paced back and forth in anxiety. His wife was in labor, but she could not give birth. It was as if the time had not arrived yet, and the person they were waiting for had not arrived yet. Su Ming stared at it for a moment before walking into the courtyard to step into another room. It was an ancestral hall, and there were quite a number of plates placed in it. They were the ancestors of this family, and they were worshipped by this family generation after generation. Xianxia stayed by Su Ming's side and quietly watched him stare at the plates in the ancestral hall. Eventually, his gaze landed on the topmost plate. By his ears were still the occasional screams from the woman in labor in the other room. After a long while, Su Ming sighed softly and touched his storage bag before he turned around, and with one step, he appeared in the woman's room. As he stared at her experiencing difficulty in giving birth, he found that her face somewhat resembled that of Bai Su. In silence, Su Ming patted his storage bag, and an illusory shadow resembling a wandering soul flew out to float around him. It was the Celestial Maiden One. As he stared at the Celestial Maiden, Su Ming sighed softly. With a swing of his right hand, the Celestial Maiden's soul circled Su Ming a few times, as if there was a hint of a reluctance to part within it, then she slowly fused into the woman's womb. Perhaps it was destined that I would come here to cut my ties with you the second time in this place. The first was in Arid Triad, and the second in Harmonious Morus Alba. Su Ming said softly. He stared at the soul disappearing into the woman's womb, then turned around and left quietly. At the instant Su Ming left, he heard a baby's cries. The voice seemed to carry a reluctance to part, along with a hint of regret. But the sounds of laughter and cheers from the family washed away this sadness. Chen stared at all of this in a daze. He did not understand why this happened, because he did not understand what Su Ming had went through. On a continent of this planet in True Sky Hill World was a lake. Su Ming sat beside it and watched the lake as snow fell from the sky, but it did not freeze the water. There was steam rising from the surface of the lake, making it clear that there was a heat source underneath. So, tell me where your enemies are, Su Ming said faintly. Chen was momentarily stunned by his side. He was just about to say something when Su Ming turned his head and stared at Chen with a smile. I won't be staying long in Harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos. I have certain things to do as well while I'm here. If you don't tell me, then once I leave, you won't have this chance anymore, Su Ming said while smiling. There was no way he would not be able to tell with his intellect that Chen had intentionally mentioned Bai Su to lure him to come to Sky Hill. If anyone else had done this, Su Ming would harbor killing intent toward them, but Chen definitely had something he needed from Su Ming, so instead of lurking around, it would be better for them to be direct. An awkward expression appeared on Chen's face. He looked as if he wanted to explain something, but then gritted his teeth and wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed deeply toward Su Ming. Sky Hill Jade Palace's Western Deity Sect, which is under Li Qianwang's jurisdiction. The current seal-bearer eldest disciple in that sect should have been me, but I was framed by wicked people, and they forced me to leave. This person has vast and deep connections in Western Deity Sect, and he is the son of Li Shou, one of the Li Qianwang's 4 generals. He destroyed my cultivation base and snatched my lover so that he could seize the status of the seal-bearer disciple. He forced me to constantly flee, as if toying with me. This is something that happened in the past, and it's also because of this that I was forced to flee into Bright Yang Vortex, which is how I entered the Berserker's world. I returned later on. This person might not have attacked me again, but every single time I returned to the sect to make offerings to my master, he caused trouble for me. My level of cultivation is not as great as his, and I can't take revenge for what he did to me. I can only endure it. Those troubles are like the ones I ran into just now. A sect I visited lost a treasure of theirs, and I was made accountable for it. If it was not because I am somewhat acquainted with Freezing Winter Sect's seal-bearer eldest disciple, I would have been unable to run from being humiliated by this person again. How do you want to deal with Western Deity Sect? Su Ming asked while looking at Chen. Killing him alone is enough, but if Chen gritted his teeth, and a ferocious expression appeared on his face. Before he even spoke, Su Ming nodded. I don't do things by reason or rationality. I only care about the feelings of those close to me. Since you asked, then Western Deity Sect, should be destroyed, Su Ming said slowly. Once these words left his mouth, Xianxia sucked in a sharp breath. He had wanted to say that if Su Ming was able to, he would like him to kill a few of his opponent's seniors in secret as well, but when he thought of the status of Western Deity Sect's sect master, he had hesitated.
Are there any more? Su Ming asked. There is also Northern Waves sect.
It is also one of the 4 sects under Li Qianwang.
In the past,
Xianxia felt slightly worked up. He had heard the casualness in Su Ming's words and had a vague guess of Su Ming's level of cultivation. At that moment, before he finished speaking, Su Ming nodded again. Northern Wave sect.
Are there any more?
And there's also Zhennan Tuzun sect. It's also Li Qianwang's. All right, I will wipe off this Li Qianwang you speak of and destroy all of his sects.
Will that be enough?
Freezing Winter sect is actually quite nice to me.
Wipe off Li Qianwang?
He's a powerful warrior in Death Realm, and his power is so great that it's unfathomable. When Xianxia said those words, he sucked in a sharp breath again and stared at Su Ming blankly, because Su Ming had just said those 4 words to him again.
Are there any more?
No.
None.
No more.
Xianxia shuddered in his heart.
He suddenly felt a little scared. Based on what he understood of Su Ming, his casualness was definitely not an intentional slight. He was truly completely unbothered and dismissive of this matter. Wiping off several sects and a powerful warrior who had already perfected Death Realm while being so unbothered and dismissive of it was enough proof to tell just how great Su Ming's level of cultivation had become. This caused Xianxia's breathing to quicken, but he still did not quite dare to believe it.
Li Qianwang is. All right.
Bring me to Western Deity Sect first. You will need to do something about your face too. After all, after this is done, I will leave, but you will still stay here. Su Ming turned around and lifted his right hand to swing it at Xianxia. Xianxia's appearance immediately changed, and he turned into an old man. His presence had also become different. Unless there was someone whose will was stronger than Su Ming's, no one would be able to tell that the old man beside him was Xianxia. Chapter 1263, Destroy the Sect. The reason Su Ming chose to help Xianxia was because they were old friends. Since Xianxia had already spoken, Su Ming would not refuse him. Besides, destroying a few sects and a cultivator in Death Realm was. He was indeed completely unbothered by it. Forget Li Qianwang, even if he had to wipe off all the powerful warriors in True Sky Hill World, it would not be an impossible feat for Su Ming. Besides helping Xianxia with his revenge, Su Ming had his own goals as well. He wanted to make a ruckus and bring attention to himself in harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos. He wanted to catch the attention of all the powerful warriors and make the other version of himself who was a child of Morus Alba come to him. It would be much easier than him searching for his other self on his own. After all, this was harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos. If his other self wanted to hide, Su Ming would find it troublesome to find him. There were plenty of other places that he wanted to visit in his short time here, such as the All Spirits Hall. With that being the case, it was much better if he put on a disguise. Then, everything that he would do would be blamed on that child of Morus Alba. With it, he could force his other self to show up. He wanted to fuse with his other self. This was a cruel matter, but after experiencing so many things, Su Ming knew deeply that if it had the chance, his other self would also choose to fuse with him. The difference only lay on who was the dominant personality after their fusion. Both sides had their own resolve. There was no right or wrong in this. If there was, then the one who was wrong was the world. Su Ming did not immediately head off in search of All Spirits Hall because he had come to realize that his strength might also cause his other self to become stronger due to his appearance in this place. Besides the supreme child of Morus Alba, the strongest force of power in True Sky Hill World was the Jade Palace. The Jade Emperor was clearly a sublime paragon, and there were 3 main forces branching out from under him: Li Qianwang, the god of 2 tunnels, and the young Feng Hua. They built their own forces of power and quite a number of sects. They were like a huge tree whose roots were deeply rooted in True Sky Hill World. Western Deity Sect was just a branch among the many branches of the tree. Under Xianxia's lead, Su Ming descended upon it in just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. As he stared at the sect in the distance, monstrous killing intent appeared in Xianxia's eyes. He had already made up his mind. When he charged forward with Su Ming later on, he would definitely kill that seal-bearer eldest disciple with his own hands, and he would definitely use every bit of his power to penetrate the 13 planets. Western Deity Sect was a sect formed by 13 cultivation planets. It had tens of thousands of disciples and had stood tall for a long period of time in the galaxy. Li Shou, the sect master's name, was a name given to the generations of sect masters who would inherit the title of the 4 generals under Li Qianwang. Every Li Shou was a powerful warrior in Death Realm, and their might was not to be questioned or provoked. Yet right then, a loud bang that shook the skies and earth and could be heard in all of True Sky Hill world reverberated through Western Deity Sect. That loud bang caused Xianxia's heart to tremble, and his eyes went wide in disbelief, because he saw that Su Ming had only lifted his right hand and pushed down. True Sky Hill world looked like it was about to shatter. Ripples swept through the galaxy and turned into a huge hand that stretched out boundlessly. It covered all of Western Deity Sect and pushed down swiftly. As loud booms reverberated through the air and Xianxia was caught in a state of disbelief, the 13 cultivation planets withered and crumbled, shattering to pieces. The bodies and souls of innumerable cultivators were destroyed on the spot. Even if there were some powerful warriors who tried to fly into the air, the moment they flew up, they would explode while screaming shrilly. Only one person, a middle-aged man dressed in battle armor, charged out with a shout full of despair. His face was filled with terror and indescribable panic. He seemed to want to say something, but when the huge hand furled into a fist, all the fragments from the planets and the people, including the man dressed in battle armor, were reduced to nothingness when the hand clenched into a fist. When it unfurled, Western Deity Sect disappeared from True Sky Hill world. From the beginning till the end, only a few breaths had passed. Northern Waves Sect. Lead the way, Su Ming said faintly as he looked at the dumbstruck Xianxia. The thick killing intent Xianxia had harbored previously turned into cold sweat at that moment. All his preparations beforehand had disappeared due to what he had seen. He had recognized the cultivators who had tried to fly up. Every single one of them were existences who could make him tremble. They were powerful warriors who could make the entire galaxy shake with a stomp of their feet. But they could not even fly out into the galaxy. Their bodies and souls were destroyed in a wretched manner. And the man in the battle armor had given Xianxia the greatest amount of shock, because there was no way Xianxia would mistake him. It was the sect master of Western Deity Sect who possessed the power of Death Realm Li Shou, one of the 4 war generals under Li Qianwang. That person was so strong that Xianxia could only dream of obtaining his strength. In fact, there was a long period of time when Sect Master Li Shou had been the strongest person in the universe in Xianxia's mind. Yet right then, this powerful warrior could not even withstand a single blow from Su Ming. Xianxia finally understood the reason behind why Su Ming had sounded so casual when he said he wanted to wipe off Li Qianwang. Northern Waves Sect. Northern Waves Sect. Xianxia felt his spirits lift. His voice was hoarse, and blood capillaries due to excitement appeared in his eyes as he pointed into the distance. Northern Waves Sect is over there. After the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn, booming sounds reverberated through the air in Northern Waves Sect. The entire sect was reduced to ash in an instant. None of the cultivators and the powerful warriors managed to escape the disaster. All of their bodies and souls were destroyed. With Su Ming's strength, he was the will of heaven. The strength of his will was only weaker than that of Arid Triad and Harmonious Morus Alba. He only needed a single thought if he wanted to destroy a person or a sect. The time it takes for another 2 incense sticks to burn past, and Zhennan sect was wiped out from True Sky Hill world by a hand. 3 sects were destroyed, and the entire process took less than 2 hours. The speed of it was so quick that even Xianxia, who personally saw it with his own eyes, found himself unable to react to all of this, and it was worse for Li Qianwang, who was under the jurisdiction of Jade Palace. Xianxia was so worked up that he could no longer measure the level of his excitement. He only knew that his eyes were red, and it was due to his excitement. He went through his memories to search for the people who once oppressed him, and he found quite a number of people. Just when he was about to tell Su Ming about each and every one of them, an enraged roar came charging forth from a distant galaxy.
Who is it? Who has the gall to destroy my sects? When this voice appeared, Chen suddenly shuddered. He could immediately recognize the owner of the voice, Li Tianwang. He was one of the 3 strongest people in all of True Sky Hill world besides the child of Morris Alba and the Jade Emperor. All the various rumors regarding Li Tianwang rose in Chen's mind at that moment, and they brought terror to his heart. Su Ming. Chen instinctively looked at Su Ming. But just as he was about to remind him of the other's status, he saw Su Ming raise his head and look at the long arc charging towards them from the distance. He also saw the aloofness and indifference in his eyes. "Kneel down before you speak," Su Ming said faintly. His voice echoed through all directions like thunder. His will filled the space behind him, causing the galaxy to distort, and he intentionally turned it into a huge butterfly. This was not the ability of a child of Morris Alba borrowing the power of harmonious Morris Alba. It was an illusion Su Ming created with his own will, but in harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos, this scene could stun everyone alive. Chapter 1264. No other choice within harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos was True Victory Colony World. It had a floating palace, and within it was a child of Morris Alba who was communicating with harmonious Morris Alba's will. At that moment, Su Ming's other self in this world experienced a full body shudder. Slowly, his body stopped being rigid. The shadow of the butterfly in his eyes flashed swiftly a few times. His breathing clearly became several times quicker. At the same time a brilliant light shone in his eyes. He became greatly uncertain. He had been communicating with harmonious Morris Alba's will to verify the truth of his assumption and used harmonious Morris Alba's will to calculate the best route of action for himself. But after he heard the answer, he sank into an even greater state of daze. The other me from Arid Triad. Harmonious Morris Alba's will has clearly showed great interest in my other self. He fell silent for a moment. Then the killing intent in his eyes grew stronger. It wants me to bring this person to the burial ground of Morris Alba, or rather, it wants me to devour and fuse with this person so that the 2 of us can become one. If I can do this and obtain dominance, it will fulfill one of my requests. The young man fell silent again. The uncertainty on his face grew more prominent, and he looked as if he was thinking of his choice. Soon after, footsteps appeared from beyond his palace. A woman appeared beside the door. She was incredibly beautiful, and there was a graceful gentleness to her. She walked into the hall and arrived next to the young man before she quietly crouched down and pressed down on the young man's hand. The young man lifted his head and their gazes met. If Su Ming was there, he would definitely be able to tell with just one glance that the woman's appearance was that of Yu Xian's. Or rather, this was the other Yu Xian in this world. However, while her body looked normal, when she touched the young man's hand with her own, her hand seemed to phase through his. It was not that the young man was not real, but the Yu Xian before his eyes was an illusion. "Why did you insist on coming here?" The young man stared at the woman before him. This was his lover, and tender affection appeared in his eyes. He raised his left hand, as if he wanted to touch the woman's face, but he only managed to touch air, and he could not help the hint of pain that appeared in his eyes. "Your soul is scattering, you shouldn't come out. You have to stay in the black wood I prepared for you. I promise you, one of these days, I will definitely let you truly wake up." As the young man mumbled, the uncertainty on his face disappeared, replaced by determination and resolve. This was his lover, a dead person who he could not awaken even if he was a child of Morris Alba. Her soul would occasionally be separated from her body, and she would scatter while she drifted about. It was due to an accident many years ago. As the child of Morris Alba, he had been communicating with harmonious Morris Alba's will, and for some unknown reason, he had lost consciousness. When he woke up, he saw his lover lying in his bosom and found that he had been the one who had personally extracted his lover's soul and made her fall asleep. This was a backlash against him as a child of Morris Alba. Even when communicating with harmonious Morris Alba's will, he would still face backlashes, and when it occurred, he would lose consciousness and turn into an aloof murderer. It was the same for every single child of Morris Alba, but he did not expect that his backlash would arrive so early. He went mad. In desperation, he did everything he could to contact harmonious Morris Alba's will, regardless of the cost. He wanted his lover to recover,
but harmonious Morris Albers did not give him any response. Fuse with my other self. One request. When a brilliant light shone in the young man's eyes, the woman before him bit her lip and shook her head, as if she did not want her lover to make this choice. I don't have any other choice. I saw my other self's actions in True Sky Hill World just now from harmonious Morris Albers' will. He is me, and I am him. I can sense his thoughts. He is intentionally luring me towards him. Honestly, even if he didn't lure me out, I would still go to him of my own free will. This is our destiny, a destiny in which only one of us can live. From the moment he stepped in and I communicated with harmonious Morris Albers' will, this destiny was set in stone. If he doesn't die, I will. The young man was silent for a moment, then he caressed the illusory woman's face. Her soul turned into a flash of dark light before she disappeared from the hall. Disappearing along with her was the young man. When he reappeared, he was in a chamber under the hall. It was surrounded by a large number of seals, but they were harmless. They only isolated that particular space from the entire expanse cosmos, causing the flow of time in the chamber to be completely different from the world outside. It was as if time had been frozen for eternity in there. In the chamber was a huge log, and the center of it had been emptied. Lying in there was a woman in red. Her eyes were closed as if she was sleeping. The young man appeared beside the log and looked down at the woman blankly. He stared at her brow, her eyes, her nose, and her lips, and as he stared at her, grief appeared on his face. All the other people in the expanse cosmos only knew that the children of Morris Alber were supreme entities, but they did not know about the price the children of Morris Alber had to pay during the backlash. The appearance of each backlash was sudden and abrupt, and it would appear not only when they tried to communicate with harmonious Morris Alber. They could lose their consciousness at any random moment, and once they did, everything around them would be destroyed. The children of Morris Alber could not have family or friends. It was just like how everyone would have to lose something to gain something. This was the price they had to pay. That was why he would usually not venture out, but would restrain himself in the palace, as if he had sealed himself in there. Unless there was a need for him to move out, he would sit for long periods of time without getting up. He stared at the woman quietly, and the determination on his face grew stronger. After some time, he straightened up, and a fierce light lit up in his eyes. During that moment, there seemed to be no difference between him and Su Ming. With a swing of his arm, the young man disappeared from the place. When he reappeared, he was in the palace. With one step, he moved out of the hall, and his voice echoed in the air. 10 mournful deaths. The moment he spoke, the air around him distorted, and 10 figures manifested. Their bodies were indistinct, and their aura of death was incredibly thick. They were not living people, but the souls of the dead. They had died in the passage of time, but the young man who used harmonious Morris Albers had changed that. He had forcefully reversed time and extracted the 10 strongest souls in the history of the expanse cosmos. He had also used harmonious Morris Albers to give the 10 great mournful deaths the 18 spirit hells, making it so they could kill without end once they moved into formation. Come with me and fuse with harmonious Morris Albers to destroy the cause of this trouble in the world outside. The young man's voice was cold. As he spoke, the shadow of the butterfly in his eyes flashed rapidly. It appeared faintly behind him as well. With a step forward, he charged into the distance. The 10 great mournful death behind him exuded a ghastly presence. Without a single word, they spread out as if they formed the wings of the young man. From the distance, the young man looked like a real butterfly flapping its wings in space. Beneath it though, 18 vortices were spinning. It was the mighty pressure formed by the 18 spirit hell. Piercing howls could be heard coming from the vortices, and they were filled with pain and madness. Wherever they went, all lives would fall down to their knees and worship them. Oi! Xianxia stared nervously at the long arc charging towards them from a distance, and he instinctively turned to look at Su Ming beside him. Su Ming seemed to be completely unbothered by the swiftly approaching long arc. He instead lifted his head to stare at space before he suddenly asked, "Harmonious Morris Alber expanse cosmos is moving. Can you sense it?" "What?" Xianxia was momentarily stunned. "Perhaps it's just a figment of my imagination." Su Ming shook his head. During the instant just then, he had a strange feeling. It was as if all of harmonious Morus Alba expanse cosmos was moving. This feeling was something he had never sensed before. Only when he obtained the will of another true world in this place and possessed two true worlds' wills in his mind did he obtain this strange feeling. It was as if he had achieved some sort of balance. This feeling came abruptly, but when he tried to search for it, he could find no trace of it. He could only treat it as a figment of his imagination. Booming sounds echoed in the air. The long arc closed in, and in it was a man dressed in golden armor. That man was tall and incredibly built. In his right hand he held a golden tower, and his face was filled with rage, but when he saw Su Ming and the butterfly behind him, his rage turned into shock and disbelief. Child of Morus Alba. The man in golden armor shuddered. When he was about thousands of feet away from Su Ming, his expression changed a few times in succession. The man in golden armor forced down his rage and hissed out, "Your Grace, why did you destroy my sects? Kneel down and speak." Su Ming had an aloof expression on his face. He cast the man a cold glance before speaking to him. The moment he uttered them, the universe roared. The butterfly behind him also flapped its wings. A great will immediately spread out from Su Ming with a bang. It was so great that it shook the sky and earth. This was the supreme will formed by Su Ming once he combined the wills of both true worlds. This will was definitely not something a cultivator could fight back against. When faced with it, anyone would be completely aware that they were before a supreme state of being and know that they were two completely different beings. Under the roars of that will and the mighty pressure, the man in golden armor jolted. He swiftly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Cracking sounds came from his body, as if it could not withstand the pressure. He roared, and the tower in his hand flew out, swiftly growing in size, as if it wanted to fight back against Su Ming, but in just the span of a few breaths, crumbled with a loud bang. When it shattered into pieces, the golden armor on the man's body broke down as well. He coughed up another mouthful of blood, and while shuddering, he was forced to kneel. To him, it felt like the entire universe had collapsed on his body, and with his level of cultivation, he simply could not fight back against it. He could only kneel down. The space then fell silent. The mighty pressure seemed to have frozen the entire galaxy. The light in the eyes of the man whose golden armor had shattered slowly disappeared. His cultivation base was frozen, and all his life force was destroyed when he knelt down. Cracking sounds echoed in the air. As Chen Chen's heart shuddered, he saw Li Qianwang, whose strength was so great that he was akin to the might of heaven in his eyes, breathe his last. His life force, his cultivation base, and his soul were all destroyed the instant he knelt down. And just like that, he died. Do you still have any enemies? Su Ming did not even spare Li Qianwang a glance when he posed the same question to Chen Chen once more. Chen Chen was completely terrified and quickly uttered his answer in a stutter. No. No more. Chapter 1265. Heavenly Spirit Tribes mourning. Chen Chen no longer had any enemies, but the death of Li Qianwang, who was a powerful warrior in Death Realm and a famous person in True Sky Hill World, would definitely not be ignored. The destruction of Li Qianwang's 4 sects might catch quite a lot of people's attention, but there was practically no one who was at Li Qianwang's level among them. Only those who shared the same level of cultivation among those in the 4 sects would pay attention to this. This was why it did not matter whether it was True Sky Hill World's child of Morus Alba, the Jade Emperor, or any other powerful warriors. None of them paid any attention to this matter. Within True Sky Hill World was a huge cultivation planet with golden light shining from it. That light reached far and wide, and the planet was much larger than a normal one. There were no continents on the golden planet, only an ocean. It was not blue, but golden, which was why the cultivation planet appeared to be golden from the distance. Covering the entire ocean was a group of palaces that could be described as extravagant. The palace located at the center was like the imperial palaces of the mortal worlds. It had a hall which contained a dragon throne, and sitting on it was a middle-aged man dressed in a lavish emperor's robe. The man had an awe-imposing expression. At that moment, he was frowning. Floating before him were 3 spirit plates. Almost the moment Li Qianwang's body and soul were destroyed, the spirit plate with Li Qianwang's name carved on it had cracked. Not a single hint of life spread out from it anymore. Since you're here, then come in. The man in the emperor's robe lifted his head and cast a glance at the area beyond the hall. His voice was gentle, but there was an imposing tone to his words that held an air of supremacy. When his voice echoed in the air, two figures walked into the hall from beyond the building that resembled an imperial palace. One of them was a boy dressed in a red robe. His were cold and dark. By his side was a young man dressed in a blue robe. He had a slender build and looked incredibly handsome. A third eye resembling Su Ming's was located at the center of his brow. "Greetings, Jade Emperor." The young man wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed slightly before he spoke slowly. As for the boy beside him, he had a sullen expression on his face and did not speak. The two of them were naturally the people who shared the same status as Li Qianwang in True Sky Hill World's Jade Palace. They were both powerful warriors who had perfected Death Realm, the young Feng Hua and God of Two Tunnels, while the middle-aged man sitting on the dragon throne was the strongest person in this True World's Jade Palace. The Jade Emperor, the person second only to the children of Morris Alba. Li Qianwang has died. The Jade Emperor cast his gaze on Li Qianwang's spirit plate and sighed softly. He clenched the dragon throne's armrest tightly with his right hand as his heart seethed with incredible rage. Jade Palace is already not as great as it was before, and in our current generation, we are the only ones who can obtain the legacy and continue living. Yet Li Qianwang was killed. Jade Emperor, what are your plans? The young man in blue asked calmly. The young Feng Hua spoke up in a sharp voice that was filled with great killing intent. What else can we do? The person who killed Li Qianwang might have extraordinary power, but if we let him remain unscathed, Jade Palace will become the laughingstock of the entire galaxy. That person must die. He must pay with his life. No matter who he is, since he chose to provoke Jade Palace, he must pay the price. You know that this person has extraordinary power. If he can kill Li Qianwang, then it is not impossible for him to kill us. Li Qianwang has already died, so why must you act this way? The young man in blue frowned, but before he could finish speaking, the boy's sharp voice immediately cut him off. The both of us might not be his opponent, but what about the Jade Emperor? If even the Jade Emperor is not his opponent, there is still the child of Morris Alba. No matter what, that person must die. If he doesn't die, I will leave Jade Palace. What is the use of me staying here if Jade Palace can't even fight back? The boy's voice echoed through the entire hall, causing a chilling glare to swiftly appear in the Jade Emperor's eyes. He stared at the boy coldly, and after a long while, he slowly stood up. Say that one more time. Let me hear it again. The young Feng Hua fell silent. He lowered his head and did not say a word. The Jade Emperor let out a cold harumph, then, with a swing of his arm, he took a step forward. Li Qianwang's death will not catch the child of Morris Alba's attention, and it's impossible for us to ask him for help. Only when Jade Palace's survival is at risk will the child of Morris Alba take action. Since that person chose to provoke Jade Palace, then no matter what sort of price we have to pay, he must die. 5 mountain generals, where are you? When the Jade Emperor finished speaking, loud bangs swiftly came from the golden ocean beyond the palace. As they reverberated through the air, 5 mountains shot up from the bottom of the ocean and charged into the sky. They were 5 towering mountains. At the instant they appeared, they crumbled with a bang, and 5 giants that were thousands of feet tall appeared from within. They were all dressed in armor. Once they stood up, they knelt down on the surface of the ocean towards the palace. 5 generals, hear me. I order each of you to lead 100,000 heavenly soldiers of Jade Palace and arrange the Great 5 Direction Rune. With the young Feng Hua as your commander, kill the enemy. Once a stately voice traveled out of the palace, the 5 giants raised their heads and voiced their obedience together. The next moment, they flew out of the golden ocean. Soon after, the ocean roared. As huge waves tumbled about, 100,000 people in armor flew out from the 5 giants' regions in the ocean. They formed an army of 500,000 heavenly soldiers and charged into the sky. A long arc flew out of the palace as well. It was the young Feng Hua. At that moment, magic wheels spun under his feet, sweeping up his body so that he could instantly catch up to the 5 generals. He took the lead and disappeared into the sky. 3 civs, where are you? When the Jade Emperor's voice echoed from the palace again, the entire ocean in the cultivation planet sank by hundreds of feet. 3 golden dragons roared and rose from 3 different directions. When their roars echoed in the world, another shout filled the sky. 3 sieves, I order you to execute the rain and cloud surging art. Seal the 2 dimensions. Execute the soldier art and gather 300,000 sky soldiers, with the god of 2 tunnels as your commander, kill the enemy. Roars shook the sky. As the god of 2 tunnels flew out with a sigh, the 3 golden dragons roared and moved. Immediately, their countless scales reflected endless golden light. It turned into 300,000 creatures with dragon heads and human bodies. Dressed in armor, they charged with the 3 golden dragons as well as the god of 2 tunnels into the air. Seal the 5 directions and the 2 dimensions of space. After the 2 fiends try to kill him, next will be me, the Jade Emperor, who will attack. Golden Ocean, take your form. When the voice from the palace on the surface of the ocean appeared again, the golden ocean in the cultivation planet rumbled and shook, before it rose from the seabed and swept up to the sky, looking like rain that was going backwards. At the moment the golden ocean rushed into the sky, a person walked out of the palace. He was dressed in an emperor's robe, and he was naturally the Jade Emperor. The moment he walked out, all the golden seawater surrounded him, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a huge statue. It was the Jade Emperor's statue. It shone with brilliant golden light and was about 10,000 feet tall. The man portrayed looked to be filled with a power that could shake the sky and earth, and when he appeared, he immediately caused true Sky Hill world to tremble. His existence alone seemed to push the true Sky Hill world to the breaking point. An ancient and archaic presence filled him, making the statue look like it had existed for an unknown number of years. Once it moved, it instantly cut through the air. Then, it strode into the sky. The Jade Palace might not be marching to their enemy at full strength, but right then, even the Jade Emperor had personally gone into battle, and this was a telling sign of Jade Palace's killing intent and resolve. Oi! Su Ming sat in the space belonging to true Sky Hill world. Needless to say, it was the place where Li Qianwang had died. At that moment, his corpse was still not too far away from him, still kneeling. They should be here soon. Chen, you can leave first. What will happen next has nothing to do with you. If you stay here, you will be in danger. If we are fated to meet again, then we will, Su Ming said faintly while he looked at Chen, who was beside him. Chen fell silent. He could vaguely guess what Su Ming was waiting for, and with a slightly pale face, he bowed to him quietly. Take care. Chen knew that he would be absolutely useless and would instead bring himself huge trouble if he stayed. He had always been a resolute person. Once he bowed to Su Ming, he turned into a long arc and charged off into another direction. Su Ming stared at Chen's back for a while before turning his head and resuming his quiet wait. He was waiting for his other self as well as the people who would come seeking revenge for Li Qianwang's death. No matter who arrived, on that day, the universe would be dyed red. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, half a day went by. Golden light shone from the distance, and when its ripples spread out, Su Ming did not manage to see his other self, but he did see Jade Palace, who came seeking revenge for Li Qianwang. Su Ming cast a glance at the golden light in the distance before he said flatly, "Since you want to die so much, I will fulfill your wish, Jade Palace." While harmonious Morris Alba Expanse Cosmos had drawn their swords and were prepared to fight, in the vortex known as Bright Yang Vortex in this Expanse Cosmos and Yin Death Vortex in Arid Triad was the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe. He had his head thrown back and was laughing out loud. His aura had become chaotic. He looked incredibly disorderly, and his life force had become incredibly weak. But he continued laughing. During the 5th disaster fiendish withering of earth in 5 directions, his blood had turned into rivers, his body transformed into land, his fingers changed to mountains, his limbs mutated into mountain ranges, his eyes were altered into the sun and moon, and all his hair transfigured into all forms of life in the world. Everything about him was separated. This was the 5th disaster, but he had blasted it away forcefully. Then came the 6th disaster, the disaster of emptiness, which would only appear during the period of time when daylight was about to change places with night. If Su Ming ran into this disaster, he would definitely die. Even the current Su Ming would still die. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe had managed to get through the disaster, but he had paid a huge price for it. However, He still laughed as he faced the final disaster, the heaven disaster. If I get through this disaster, I will have my spirit ascend for the 9th time, and I will become an ancestral spirit. Slumbering arid triads will, I want to challenge you. As the old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe laughed loudly, he charged into the vortex above him. With determination, madness, and an indomitable spirit, he rushed into the vortex, straight towards the final disaster manifesting itself, the heaven disaster. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe disappeared into the area of the vortex that was previously above him. During that moment, the flow of time slowed down. An unknown amount of time passed before a sigh filled with anguish traveled through the air. The old man's face appeared swiftly in the vortex. On his face was a dazed look, as if he had just seen something that left him in disbelief.